Good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning to each and every one of you. Uh, Trying to find something because, as always. Good morning. Welcome to Mornings with Marvel, where authenticity lives and thrives to create a space of growth, healing, and joy. I am your host, Andrea Lawful Sanders, and each day we will cover the topics that are informative and engaging while learning from each other. Good morning to each and every one of you. It is Monday, November 24th, 2025. It is 37 degrees and cold as hell outside, and we are going to get a good day going. David Alexander Jenkins is sitting in the wings to join us, and so we're going to have an excellent conversation as usual. There's a quote that I want to give you. Two of them. They're from Sharif Al-Mekki, who just finished the convening of the Black Male Engagement Conference that happens every year. It's been at the Lowe's Hotel right here in Philadelphia, and black men from all around, black male educators from all around the country, and women educators are in this space for 3 days. And one of the things someone had this on the back of a shirt. The purest form of activism is teaching Black children and teaching them well, whether you have the tools or not, quote unquote, because there are people in far worse conditions that have children that are being pumped out doing the most amazing things. So it's not what you don't have, right? It's how you teach children. So my morning motivation comes from this, and David's probably watching so he can see that I see him. Let me. So this happened maybe in 2019. I'm constantly writing. This stuff needs to go into a book because, whoo, let me figure this out. Some months ago in a meeting, an educator asked me, what did I do to have sons who achieve so much at such young ages? My sons are now 33 and 29. Both are living on their own. Both graduated from college, doing their own thing. And so my simple response to her was a Black woman. My simple response to her, I always told them each time someone tries to tear them down, not to get bitter, get better. In doing so, they use those infractions to work harder and accomplish more, which is the sweetest thing, while having their family members to constantly talk to them and shore them up. She scoffed and said that is not a thing anyone should tell Black children who are constantly devalued. I closed my eyes to slits, looked at her with a smile, and punted back. Look around you. Society is filled with Black and brown people who gave into the messages of devaluation, got bitter, and essentially gave up by just existing. As parents, we have a moral responsibility to teach our children to thrive beyond the messaging they will get. Nothing comes from staying steeped in feeling sorry for oneself. You keep coddling and buying into the sorrow. In our camp, we work through the messaging they receive and give them the tools to keep thriving. Nothing changes if nothing changes. I am over belly aching with no solutions. So yes, I tell them not to get bitter, get better. She sat down with not another word to me. All children, not some, not a few, not most, all children are capable. When we help not just our own, but others to thrive, amazing things happen. Never ever come to me with a problem and belly aching without being ready for solutions. Your feelings will be hurt. When I think about Sharif Al-Mekki and the Black male engagement, he doesn't even know I'm talking about him this morning. I just choose what I'm going to, talk about. And the work that he has done. He was a principal at one of the mastery campuses in West Philadelphia, and he was sitting in Uncle Bobby's, and myself and another sister, Hillary, were in there, and he came over and started talking to us and shared with us that he was thinking of starting this thing called the Black Male Engagement. It would mean leaving his steady job. It would mean not having health insurance. He would have to find his own health insurance. It would mean having to, create funding all the time. But he said his soul is calling him. But the thought of, leaving his family, not being able to have a steady paycheck scared him more. And so Hillary and I looked at him. I said, man, if you don't get the hell up out of that job, we are both entrepreneurs, Hillary and I. As if you don't get the hell up out of that job and do what you're being called to do, if not you, then who? And now I look at Sharif El-Mekki, some years later, not even 10 years later, maybe six, seven, this is the fourth annual convene that they have, where thousands of men from around the country are showing up in the midst of all of the trials that are going on in this country, and school districts are seeing their budget slashed. He didn't know if they were all going to come. They came. They came. This is important. And so the message today is, while we are curating pipelines to have more teachers of color, because we really, really do. There's so few of them in the schools. More teachers, period, because we really do need more teachers in the schools all around the country. We really have to feed into our children and take away the bad messaging that they get every day, and feed them well in terms of, this is what you're made of. This is how we love you. This is the history. If your children don't see that you're an avid reader, or that you're always, using critical thinking skills versus being petty, then they're going to grow up to be the same way. You can't blame it all on the schools, y'all. The schools are doing some things well, they're not doing some things well, but you are the buffer between the schools and your children to make sure that they're okay. So to fall in line with the messaging that we are always devalued, yes, we are always in, yes, 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 yes. But what's the comeback from that? What's the solution to that? We've seen so many black women in particular, and way more black men than you would believe, getting their PhDs and flying in the face of everything they've been told that they cannot do. Find the solutions, y'all. One person at a child, one child at a time. Talk to each other in your family cliques, and your friend cliques. This is what's going on with my child. Can you help me? This is what's happening over here. What resources can we pull together to support one another? But no more can we sit around and say, well, I can't do it because after all, they told me my child can. Well, what do you say? What do you say to support and love on your child to get them over the hump? Children learn differently. So we have to be really mindful, okay? I'm going to shut that down now because David is here, and David and I always have great conversations. Woo, child. David, my darling.
Hello, good morning.
Good
Good
morning, sweetie
morning.
pie. Are you in a bathrobe, or are you just feeling sexy today?
No, no, this is a proper piece. I am in my office today, which is very rare for me to be in my
Mm,
office. So,
mm.
so you see Chloe behind me. But it is, yes. Good morning.
Good morning,
Good
my
morning.
bestie.
And out of the mouth of babe shall you hear the truth, right? I mean, that is the conversation being had this morning,
Mm-hmm.
and the protection of those babes, right? If
Yes.
we suffer our people be ill educated, I love that particular one, and then we suffer their manners from infancy, and then charge them for the crimes which their first education disposes of them. Then what else is to be said? But that we've created the thief only then to punish it. So we raise children up from the very beginning, right, to become the magnificent people they're going to be, and that requires us to fund it, to protect it, to
Mm-hmm.
supply it,
Mm-hmm.
to breathe into it. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
so grateful for the work that he's doing in that way.
Yeah, I'm grateful for him too. My darling, it's been another week in paradise called the
Another
United
week in
States of America.
paradise. Indeed. And so much is going on. I, there are still a few days left. He has 10 days from the time he had to sign that document for release and the release of the actual materials to Congress. I do not know, and I have not heard yet that Congress has their hands on any of those files from the release. And so I'm waiting to
But
see.
David, the fact that they're even releasing it now means that the it's been redacted until it's just going to be all black marks. What's the point?
If it will be, I mean, there's a lot of conventions in law. So, for instance, in law, if you have an active investigation going on within a criminal matter, you do not release information that would be pertinent to that investigation that could hinder it. So, if there's an active investigation against particular members of Congress and or the Senate who might be named, or other people, then it would be of interest to the investigation not to release the files. I'm wanting to see if we use that convention. That is to say that we've had the House vote, we had the Senate vote, the president signed off, but of course we still don't see anything because we have this active investigation. I'm also looking to see if we get redacted things. So if it's so redacted, if the powers of the president of the United States has the ability to say redact my name from every document, and if that's something that he can create, I will say that the order from Congress that was signed by the Senate did say unredacted, right? It was clear that it was supposed to be all documents, nothing was to be held back, nothing preserved. So we will see what happens with that as we move into this next portion. What I found really interesting, and this is as someone who has known Trump for a very long time. I think the first time I met Trump was in 2006. somewhere in that period. I certainly have seen him at many functions. I have been in Mar-a-Lago. I know the way in which he ticks, and so I say to you, as that sort of person, that he is a person who is a yes man. He's someone who likes to be on stage. He is an admirer of people that he thinks galvanize the public room.
Like
He
Mandami. Did you see that? Did
Hello.
you see that meeting?
And that is exactly where I was going, was this understanding of meeting Mandami and sitting down and looking up to him and gazing with this sort of lustful eye, if you will, at a person who has galvanized polls, and then making a statement to a conservative base that says, actually, I think it's going to be fine. Right? I don't think you have anything to worry about. I'm excited to live in this Mandami place. That was a really stunning moment to watch. But if you've known Donald Trump for any period of time, you know that he likes to be told that he is wonderful, and that he likes to be in rooms with people that he thinks are galvanizing and important and populous. And so it would be not outside of his playbook to see Donald Trump do a 180 to a Mandami kind of party politics, because he doesn't believe the politics that he spews anyway.
Which
And I
I
think this is
find to
something
be,
people
here's what I find interesting about him. Has anyone done any kind of
psychological testing.
in depth documentary on him? Because his behaviors are so interesting. Is the
One of
word
the
I'm looking
things
for.
that was done, there were documentaries done in his first term. There were psychological panels that were done by many psychologists who found him to be a malignant, a narcissist, right? And what that
But
really
he wasn't
speaks to
born
is,
a narcissist.
I would say he was. I would say he's
Why?
always been a narcissist. I would say that, and I want to be careful to frame what I'm saying. I have always found the current president of the United States to be someone who was interested in his image more than in anything else, who was interested in how he gained out of the end of the story, right? A great TV showman, whether it was horrid or not, right? Someone who could produce his own film, if you will.
Was
Someone
he
who was,
ignored as a child? Was he because
no,
I mean,
he was coddled actually by his mother on one side, and I will say that I saw the biggest change in Donald Trump's behavior when his mother died, right? When she was gone, all of a sudden the person who could stop him from doing something ridiculous was also gone, and I
mm,
think you then saw an unleashing of an extraordinary amount of yes man behavior around him that then propelled him into this place. I was sitting at the Spanish Institute of America Gala in New York City when Antonio Banderas and Hillary Clinton were being honored that evening, and Oscar de la Renta, and that's where I got that bow tie from Oscar, who retied my bow tie and said now. Um, but I was at that dinner when the Queen of Spain at the time, Queen Sofia, said to Hillary Clinton, "And we are looking forward to your presidency." And Donald Trump was in the room. And there was this sort of laughing and everything else because Donald Trump was in the room and Hillary was in the room and she was being honored. And it was very clear from the international community that they had no thought that Donald Trump would ever touch anything like an office. It was just a ridiculous thought. And that on top of that White House Correspondents' Dinner, which had happened just before then, right? And talk about a bookend, right? That was at the Waldorf Astoria, which is just reopened in New York. So all that time was closed in between. But in that place, that is the Trump that we're speaking to. And I think that we have to be clear that that is a yes man. That is a person who does things in order to win for himself. Whether you win or not is not on the ticket. So I say that to say, if a group of people were to get together that were like Mendami, and they were to walk over to the White House again, and they would have weekly meetings, I think you'd see a very different president of the United States, because I think he is a direct reflection of the people that are around him that tell him yes.
wow.
That is a nightmare, by the way, for MAGA Republicans who have used him to hold the line. I think the truth is, if you surround him by mandamis, you'll have a very different outcome, because he will believe that the thing that's going to cause him to win and be popular and be the whatever he thinks he needs to be is now toe this other line.
Mm, interesting. So I found it. I cannot stand when people will not read. Folks saw pictures of Mandani at the White House with the
Very
president,
Trump.
and they said, "Oh, look, see, he's just like Trump." And I'm saying to myself, "Did you go through the whole thing? when did you read the whole thing? I spent the weekend just really researching the Kennedys, right? After Tatiana came out and said that Jesus, have mercy. What is it? Can you build so much power and wealth that you create that kind of havoc and trauma for almost
Yes.
100 years to be
Yes.
visited upon generation after generation after generation?
Yes. Yes, you can. Absolutely, you can. And we've seen it time and time again, right? This isn't new. Of course, you can. But when you say people don't read, of course they don't read. I mean, we're looking at there was a advertisement posted by several members of the Senate and House, I believe,
Hmm.
who were saying to people that in the military that they had no obligation to follow orders which were illegal, right? Illegal orders. Right, that's what it said. It didn't
Hmm.
say you have no obligation to follow orders. It didn't say this. It said you have no obligation to follow legal. Why would someone say that? Well, because you remember in the first Trump administration, when people were marching on Pennsylvania Avenue, that Donald Trump asked at that time his military top brass if he could just shoot the people.
Yes, I
And they
remember
said,
that.
absolutely not. That would be illegal. The army would not respond to an illegal order, and you cannot shoot your citizens, right? That was a real thing that actually happened. It was discussed throughout government rooms. It was talked about. This was part of the reason why there was conversations about impeachment back then, and they went with other things. But this was one of the turning on the citizens to shoot them. Could you just shoot them in the foot or in the leg? He said. Okay. So we know that is an illegal order. And so what these people are saying is if you were to receive an illegal order from the executive office, you are not obligated. In fact, by law, you are obligated not to follow it. That is written in the law. Okay. People don't read. And so what has been going on now is this idea of sedition. Oh my God, these people have told people not to follow the orders of the executive office and this and the other. It's sedition, it's treason, it's X, Y,
Yes,
and Z, and on and on and on and on and on, because they don't have the ability to read a sentence.
yes,
Illegal orders, right?
yes.
Marjorie Taylor Greene retires, it seems now, in January. Wait for the
Hmm.
next stitch on that one, right? Because another shoe's going to drop.
Yep.
But talk about playing a chess game, and talk about the threats that she's received from within her own as sedition and or as treasonous and or as when people are threatening your very life from within the government if you don't stop speaking about X, Y, and Z. We have words for those things. So I think from a standpoint of what we're actually looking at, like when we say, do people read? Are they educated? The answer is no. We've done a really good job at dumbing down the populace of America so that they would accept by spoon any bit of anything.
Yeah, and it is so frustrating. So we saw. I feel like there's way more going on here with Margaret Taylor Greene, just based on the things I've been reading. So, when she
Mm.
came into Congress, she was worth $700,000. She's leaving Congress worth $25 million. There was a insider trading that happened in Congress that they this all of a sudden nobody talks about it anymore, right? That's A. But also B, I read something else that made me think about this. Um, she came into Congress an all powerful voice for MAGA, right? Make America Great Again group. And within that, she began to see up close the things that were going on in there. She thought she still had enough power to hold these folks accountable for the things that they were seeing in the Epstein files. I think they told her behind, get up and get out. We're gonna
Oh,
let you live
most
just
definitely.
long and close your mouth once you get the hell up out of here. There's nothing to be said. You're walking out of here a rich woman. You're walking out of here still with your life. And these are powerful people who will stop at nothing.
Nothing.
And I think she began to recognize all of that, as she was blowing her hot air. Do I think she's changed? Mm-mm.
Yeah.
I think she's afraid now, right? So it's a combination of things. Now, stop me if I'm wrong. Do you see similar things, or is it just me talking?
Um, I want to think about how I answer this question. Personally, I have existed in circles that have lots of information, and personally, I was partnered to circles that had lots of information, and so I know
Mhm.
how the machine works, and I know that if you step over the line in the wrong way, that the machine responds.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, I'll leave that to the side.
Okay.
I will say that Marjorie Taylor Greene has certainly spoken to the machine in a way the machine didn't appreciate, and the machine
Absolutely.
on all sides of the aisle.
Mm-hmm.
Because what she's been talking about is systematic governance, which has basically ceded the power of the United States of America to a foreign government, to lobby, to express, to aid, to all of the sorts of things that would really create infiltration. If any other government in the entire world had infiltrated the United States of government at such a level, financially, governmentarily, civically,
Would have
we
been
would
arrested
be
by their own
in
army.
well, we would have had war because we would have seen that as a foreign act
Mm-hmm.
of really trying to absolve this country of all of its powers. So what has happened that she's beginning to express and speak about is years of government compounding. When you take that type
Mm-hmm.
of years of government compounding and you add to it people who do not have a respect for the law and for uh, the word I'm looking for is really discretion and don't have a respect for discretion, then you end up with an explosion of truth, which is not to be handled well by the public.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So today we sit in a cross section of people who were on starters, hell raisers, fire bombers going into a room with what they believed was information they thought was true, which many people said you sound crazy. And then they got into power and then they realized that what they believed not only was not true, but it was
Mm-hmm.
quite actually the opposite. And it was actually the things that were hurting them and their constituents. It was something else. And these hell raisers, fire
Mm-hmm.
bombers who've never been good at discretion began to speak their mouth and their lips and move and say things that were
Mm-hmm.
really irresponsible for someone who's going to try to do something within such a government confine. And what had happened was this big mess, this big explosion of a bomb of information. And how do you walk back out of that? Well, you get a little note on your desk that says, shut up and leave
Yep.
now.
Yes.
And so I think that she's received quite a note. And I think that it is expressed that, oh, I'm not going to be a battered wife. Oh, I'm not going to this, that, and the other. I'm going to disappear. 2 days after her, but somebody told her, by the way, your pension kicks in on this day, you'll leave the day after that. Right. So there was a meeting. I liken it to the pretzel meeting when George Bush was going to say something about 9/11, remember, and then
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden he choked on a pretzel, and and
Yes.
then and then
Yes.
all of a sudden all of his sentences were perfect. He had no problem. He reading anything, everything was clear as a bell.
Mm-hmm.
There was that pretzel moment, and I think she had a little pretzel moment. And I look forward, however, because what we know about people like this is when they have a pretzel moment, they don't just disappear. They
Mm-hmm.
disappear and they get angry. And when they get angry and when they get bitter, they open their lips again. And
Yeah.
loose lips sink ships. And so what we're seeing now is Coffee said now, because she's no longer a member, she could be called to testify in the next government about her role in January 6th and why she was in those meetings and what was being said. And I think a person like this sings like a yellow
Mm-hmm.
canary. So I think it's a very dangerous game that's being played. I think she's setting herself up for a wonderful run as a governor, a wonderful run in some other sort of place if she chooses it. I think she's quite wise to get ahead of the tail, if you will, and to free herself to be questioned, to
Mm-hmm.
free herself to answer, to free herself to go galvanize the base again. I will say to you that it is very apparent to me that the MAGA base and conservative Republican wheel has used Trump for all they can. So he is an expired sponge at this point. And so I think that we will see them toss him out themselves and replace him. So
That
it'll be
that remains
interesting to
to be
watch
seen.
that.
That remains to be seen. I've done a bit of digging about presidents of other countries who have been
Mm.
deposed, arrested, locked up by their army for trying to harm their own people, for raping little girls, the whole 9 yards. And speaking of raping, what is this obsession with men and little girls in this country? What is the obsession? Can somebody tell
And
me?
I like to challenge us to say it's not a new obsession, right? One of the things we always do in this program is talk about history, and we talk about why did people get forced out of Europe into the Americas in the original. But when you go back and you look at some of those court documents, there were all
Mm-hmm.
sorts of claims being
Mm-hmm.
made against all types of people. And some of the claims were for things like assault. Some of the claims were people who were imprisoned for abuses against humans and other sorts of issues, and they were shipped off to the Americas. We like to think that the people who arrived in America originally were these puritanical folk. And the word Puritan, by the way, didn't mean good. It meant
Mm-hmm.
people who had this idea that everything needed to be as they wanted it, when they wanted it, how they wanted it in the
Wanted it,
society in
yeah.
which they lived, and they were put out. So,
Mm-hmm.
along with those puritanical people, were also criminals who were then shipped here. This is the descendant behavior. While you may not have a child who repeats the same crime as you as a parent, as you know, always instill your ideology into the child. And
And
if there are
DNA is
things
a hell of a thing.
and if you let things slip and go on generation after
Mm-hmm.
generation, you
Mm-hmm.
create a bubble. So just like we had
Mm-hmm.
people who threw their own supplies into the Boston Harbor in order to talk about this lack of money that they were certainly going to be making, because now the East India Company was going to be the people trading tea in America, and their descendants now set fire to their own stores and go out and destroy their own stuff because they're losing money about something. It's never about the government's taxation. It's all about how much money you make, right? That same behavior can be translated. If you have a generation of people who are abusing people and using people and this and the other, and they haven't changed their mindset, their
Mm-hmm.
children are going to behave in a very similar way. And we shouldn't be shocked. Um, uh, that is to say that the problems that we have here are pervasive and they continue on because we don't address them. And we have never addressed them. We've always covered them up with beautiful fairy like tales like Christopher Columbus, the Easter Bunny. We don't want to talk about the man who started the North Atlantic slave trade. We want to talk about this packaged idea that looks like Santa Claus. So I would say to you that no, it is not shocking to me. What is it with them? It's this idea of dominance and power that's wrapped up in toxic masculinity, that is created in this idea that my get is more important than yours, that is also in this built up idea. I mean, one of the things that a president of the United States once said is that if you can trick poor white people into believing that, and the NNIG word was used, are the problem, then they will never see you picking their pocket, right? And that was
Mm-hmm.
here in America. That was about wealthy white people picking the pockets of poor white people and blaming others for it. That culture of obscene provision exists today. We haven't done anything about that.
Yeah. The other thing that sticks in my craw is there's so much that has already been done. They're just putting the final touches on it. Money, currency as we know it, will not be the same anymore. They're getting rid of currency. They are making life so untenable that we will be forced to be renters of apartments. If we decide that we actually want to own a house, a 50-year mortgage we'll never really own. There is a level of reckoning that's coming
Mm.
here that is upon us that I think the average person still isn't aware. So, we're still doing things the way we've always done them. But if you open your eyes just a fraction to see what is actually happening, you all should be frightened. Frightened out of your skulls. We're throwing these parties, we're having these meetings, we're doing this, we're doing that. And I want to believe that while we're doing all of that, that we are focusing on how we're going to live moving forward. What does life look like? Or do we even have a choice, David, at this point?
Yes, and yes, and choice belongs to those who are willing to be bold enough to act upon them. So you ask, is there choice? Every day there's a choice. What choice we make is based upon how willing we are to be domiciled in safety and how willing we are to step out in boldness and object to a system that we believe or don't believe in.
Mhm.
So choice begins at the local level. It begins at, if you really believe that we have an issue of housing that's coming along, then you press on the government of your day to house those who don't have homes. We make fantastic statements, which I hope are going to come to fruition, that we have billions of dollars that we put into making sure that there is infrastructure built for people to be housed in Philadelphia. And yet, I walk down the street and there are hundreds and hundreds of people who live in the subway stations and are scrapping for meals. Do we have the ability to butt the system and change it? Only if we're willing to put our necks out there on the line to do so. So I make it my business to go to local government and scream. Boom,
Yeah, but listen
boom.
to this. In the middle of a hurricane, there are lots of people from these United States of America and from China and everywhere else that are taking what they call container homes. They're the boxes that people can, live in now so that they're not out in the cold.
Mhm.
Why can't we build container homes here? Why are we talking about houses that are worth $300,000 and $400,000? Because people can't afford. Let me give you an example. Our electric bill is now over $300. Our water bill is now
Mhm.
over $200, right? Our I don't even know what our gas bill is going to look like. Imagine someone who makes $2,100 a month take home, and your gas, electric, and your water are $700 out of that 21. You see what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And
Let me
and
give
our
you an
bills
example
our
that's more
bills
close to
have
home.
doubled and tripled. We're doing nothing different.
Let me bring it home. I said this on the floor of the city council a year and some change ago, but I went to U-Haul facility to store my piano, some furniture, art, china, X, Y, and Z. And I got to the U-Haul facility and they gave me several options per month. One was $135 a month for a 12 by 10 cell with access to electricity, to running water, to a toilet on every floor, to a secured entrance, to a key card that would let me in and out, a garage system, place to park the car when I was there. All of this there, and I could have that for anywhere between 69 for a smaller space to up to $135 a month. Okay. And I thought to myself, I can house in a temperature controlled environment my piano, but I cannot house a person. And that is the crux of the issue, is that we create fantastical ideas about what it means to exist in a dream without fundamentally addressing the promise of basic civil rights to people at the ground level. Civil rights are not just extended to things like, you know, you being an African American and being able to get a job. It's also
Mhm.
things like you having access to a toilet.
Right.
It's also things like you
Basic
having
rights.
food, basic human
I was
rights.
telling one of my sisters that right here in these United States of America, people are living in homes with no running water, no electricity, no. She was
It
she was
does
stunned into
not
silence.
cost. It does not cost the money that we believe it costs. We
Mhm.
could have purchased the Holiday Inn and kept people in it after pandemic who were otherwise homeless. We still have opportunities to buy buildings. We have tons of buildings which are simply empty. The issue that we have is that we don't ask ourselves the basic tenet question when we wake up in the morning, which is, am I my brother's keeper? Because you can answer every question in the world if you ask that question first. Am I my brother's keeper? And if you say, is it my duty to house someone, you say, am I my brother's keeper? The answer is yes. If it says, is it my duty to house someone and I am not my brother's keeper, then all of a sudden you can turn a blind eye. We have to, as a government, decide whether we are our brother's keeper. It seems to me the institution of governance, particularly as it sits in a local level, is built as a brother's keeper, which means it is our job and our duty to keep people, not to fix them necessarily. That's another step. But
Mhm.
our basic level of keeping them. So when we say, well, you have to apply for this or get that or achieve whatever, now have a, no, you don't. You have to be housed, fed, nourished, right, and slept. Because if you don't sleep, the first thing you will be is crazy.
Mhm.
Right. And so I think when we look at what is the executive government doing here in Philadelphia, I love this announcement for more money for issues of housing. But the truth is, the housing that we need is very basic. We don't actually need more luxury affordable housing. We need housing. We
Yeah.
need places that people can say, I have a place to sleep at night and to put my things down. Right.
And
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 that is a
and
very
what's
basic
happening
level.
now is that people, the unhoused, are disappearing. God knows where. We just don't know where they're disappearing to.
By
Ooh,
the way, we have this big celebration coming, where we celebrate this big anniversary in America. And the last time we had a big, huge influx of people into the city for something magnificent was when the Pope came. And remember that. Remember that we gave homeless people a one-way bus ticket to anybody else's place.
mhm.
And I need
Mhm.
us not to do that again. So I think that
Mhm.
it's the high time that we move in high gear. There's companies like Joe McDonald's A&O
Mhm.
Design, which deals with urban sustainability and with planning and with
Mhm.
quick action. They have government funds. We need to be
Mhm.
using all these things. We need to look at our land bank, which has had, I think it's 8,000 properties in its portfolio, of which it has only ever rehabilitated 1,000 of them since its inception. Right. We need to look at these sorts of things and ask why. We have this whole Department of HUD which says they're doing a lot. They're not doing a lot. They're doing minimal. And we have this guy and we like him. He comes on, he talks, but quite frankly, the numbers don't add up. The percentage that you've actually touched and affected of people with real lives is abominable. And you should be ashamed to get on this program and say that that is an acceptable mark. No, 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 no. 2%, 3% of the problem is not an acceptable mark when you have this much of the funding to do something with. So you start at the basic level. You built the camp that houses people to begin with, and you move them from the camp, the immediate camp. You do it like it's a rescue mission, from the immediate camp into a temporary housing unit. You move from
Mhm.
the temporary housing unit into another, but you don't leave them on the damn street until you fix the building. No, no, you fix the immediate problem now. So I get really tired of these groups of
Yeah.
people who say, "Oh, we're doing so much, we're building so much, you're doing
Where's
shit."
so where
So
so so where is the collective will then for the people?
The collective will is that when you get up in the morning and leave your door and step over somebody, you complain. The collective will is that we say, oh, there's no shopping on Walnut Street, but the stores on Walnut Street says it's too dangerous to hold shops here because the entire Walnut Street is filled with homeless people, and we feel it's a crime risk. The collective will is that we don't want to pay the bill to the hospitals when people are sick. The collective will is that the hospitals keep telling us that it would be much cheaper for us to fix the problem at the initial level than it would be to fix the hospital bill later on. Do you know it's $60,000 per person who goes into hospital with a very particular disease? Kendra Brooks' office gave me this number that we were talking about, was how much we spent from the city of Philadelphia rectifying bills in the hospital for people who get diseases that are only due to being unhoused.
Oh,
It was $60,000 per patient.
person. Wow.
Right now, this is obscene. We spent more money fixing that little problem than we would have spent fixing all of the housing issue in total. But
Yeah.
we use the budget ineffectively because we're so worried about, well, what if somebody says, well, that was unfair if they got something? It would be inhumane for us to carry the name Philadelphia, which is about brotherly love, and to not implement it in our policy and in the way in which we move. So I
Andrea,
come from a community in Philadelphia. Yeah.
yeah. At Joyful 8654 says, and they're still handing out one-way bus tickets. The city is, to people who come to them, and particularly those from Kensington that are using drugs. It's an interesting place to be. I'm also smelling a smoke about Jefferson Hospital Systems. They're in trouble. They're
Mm.
bleeding money like nobody's business. So I'm about to go digging there to find out what's happening.
And we could
Um,
probably take a lot of the stress off of that bill by fixing some of our problems intrinsically. This is the point, right? We want to ignore the root cause of a problem,
mhm,
which is very small. It's like saying, God, you got a scratch and you never took care of the scratch.
mhm,
And then it becomes gangrene and you have to take your leg off.
mhm,
And, and we need to understand that we're in a place where we're becoming gangrenous because we refuse to address the problem at its root cause. It's so
mhm,
simple. My challenge to the executive office in Philadelphia is to refocus on the immediate care of every person who is unhoused or in threat to be unhoused. Immediate care. That means set up the Red Cross like situation to deal with all of it. Now, that means that we need some legislation that makes it illegal to be unhoused at night so that people can force people into shelter. We already have those in the wintertime, but we need broader legislation for that. That's fine. But let's start off with, would you like a key to this unit
mhm,
where you can stay?
mhm.
Right? Let's start off with, in matching that key to this unit, here is the therapist, here's the staff of medical people, here's this and we're
And
going
so
to
in my
work
head,
to,
I can hear, and who's going to fund all of that?
well,
We
we're
got to
already
fix.
funding it. No, we're funding it now. We're just funding it on the back end. Let's take the money out of the back end of, because by the way, when we don't do this part, they go to the hospital with gangrene and we
Mhm,
pay the $1 million to remove the leg when we
mhm.
could have paid the 50,000 to house them.
And then it's passed on to the other people who are actually paying insurance that they can no longer afford. So while they're
So
housed and
America, you're paying the bill.
they have jobs, they cannot afford basic health insurance policies.
Right.
There's
So
a
it's a
reckoning
trickle
upon us
down the
that is
road.
is insane. I can't
We
even.
have not thought about it.
Mm-mm.
We haven't thought
Because
about the fact that the implication is on us anyway.
the solutions are to pass the blame. The solutions are, well, I can't do everything. But if we work across the board and work together, we can get some things done. There's something I wanted to read to you.
Yes.
New York from Black Enterprise. New York City Council member Chi Osei has filed paperwork to challenge House Democratic House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries in the Democratic primary for his Brooklyn-based congressional seat. Listen to me. It's not just about the Republicans that they're coming for. They're coming for the seated Democrats
Everybody's
too.
done.
Osei, a new member of the Democratic Socialists of America and ally of NYC Mayor-elect Zoran Mandani, filed with the Federal Election Commission on November 17th to challenge Jeffries in the Democratic primary for New York's 8th district. Axios reports the campaign launched for the district Jeffries has represented since 2013 reflects a broader push by younger, progressive Democrats to unseat incumbents they view as out of touch with their constituents. I swear for
100%.
God, I said this in 2019, 2020. I said, y'all are real comfortable. Y'all are real comfortable. You're thinking, well, it's either
It
the
should be.
Republicans or you got to get into office and do what you're supposed to do. I have said it. I said it's going to be 1 or 2 seats terms from now. 4-year terms from now, you're going to start to see the younger people push up and do what they need to do. Well, the young people are here. They have been here. They've watched you scoff at them. They've watched you tell them they don't know what they're talking about. They've watched you tell them to go sit down somewhere. But they have the ear
I
of
will
the
say,
people.
I will say that what is interesting is there's been a lot of conversation, and we can wrap this around the Epstein file as well. But
Yes.
the question posed to Democrats has been, young Democrats has been, well, but there are Democrats in there too. And the response has been, I don't care if my mother's in the file, arrest her and send her to jail. And I think there's a difference in the cult of personality from
Mhm.
one fraction of the world who would say, well, we don't want to release things because X, Y, and Z is in this. And
Mhm.
another cult of personality would say, I don't care who's in it, get rid of them. So what we're
Mhm.
seeing from the unestablished Republican and or Democratic base,
Mhm.
unestablishment, is that they're saying, we don't care. Flip it
Mhm.
all over. Turn it all. If that means that you have to go to Hakeem Jeffries, goodbye. If that means that it's time for you to be unseated, then you have to leave. If you keep making silly arguments and getting on stage and defending craziness, you got to go. I think it's interesting to watch this. I think what we're seeing is that, particularly in Mandami's election, that people like Mandami, people who are out there fighting tooth and nail, like the governor of California currently, and the way he's responding to certain Trump tropes by, if you want to redistrict this map, we're going to redistrict that one, right? This type of
Mhm.
a fight that we're seeing, this energy, is something that is now the new face of politics in America. And I think that we have to be
Mhm.
very careful not to ignore it,
Yes.
because I think if we ignore it,
Well,
that's when we
they've
end up in
ignored
these
it to
other.
their own detriment. So now we're starting to see the fallback from that, right? Laura says the Chinese, Japanese have pods for some of their homeless. We could take a page out of their book, but even in places like Oregon, there are these things happening, but we just don't seem to. I don't know. She says I knew this was coming. Democrats did not take action fast enough, and then we backed off of the shutdown. It was seen as weak. The progressives are coming. They're here. Progressives are here. Then there was this by Katika Roy. Oh, no, we don't want to do that. Hold on one second. I want to read this to you so we can get here. Hold on. Hold on. Change is coming. This
Don't
is
you
the part
worry
that
about a thing.
Katika Roy is an award-winning gender economist. She says the exit economy is here. This is on LinkedIn. My latest Fortune byline unpacks a structural economic crisis hiding beneath the top line numbers. Nearly 600,000 Black women have been economically sidelined since February, a staggering combination of job losses, unemployment, and labor force exits. Their forced exits alone are draining an estimated $9.2 billion from the gross domestic product this year. And while Black women are sidelined, 879,000 men have entered the labor force over the same period. This isn't a cooling labor market, it's a carved up one. Black women are losing jobs in higher wage sectors and gaining them in the lowest paid parts of the economy. Their unemployment rate is climbing. Their real unemployment rate, once you account for labor force exits, is over 10%. Mhm. This is what happens when opportunity is redistributed, not expanded. So what do you think about that? Because I kept saying y'all keep quoting this 300,000. This sister is bad to the bone.
I think that
And
we have to say to ourselves at the end, what is the goal? And we see the goal. The goal is to erase this population from the workforce.
Mhm.
It's to erase Black women. It is to erase women from the workforce,
Mhm.
number one. And I think that when you coalesce with groups that are like in disparity, what you have to do is remind yourself that it's time to reach the other group that's also being disparaged, and together as a force show up
Mhm.
for that. What we see is that this threatening of the male ideology says that if women are working and perhaps are more equipped to handle business than I am, or perhaps are better educated, or perhaps can handle being a mom and a boss all in one, that the thing to do would be to remove the women from the workforce and therefore return the glory to
Mhm.
the male
Mhm.
group. And so we see this play out. It's a bigger picture. Let's expand the view. We have institutions of higher education and learning who are removing all of the DI initiatives, and that are initiatives that would make it equal for people to be able to assess and
Mhm.
get to rooms of education. Not just simply that, like I think people always get it wrong. They think the DEI means that people are giving a leg up into the room. No, it means that they're allowed to compete for a
Mhm.
space, right? But those initiatives are being removed. Why? Because we'd like to see a donor class, a wealthy donor class, traditionally non non anything but Caucasian, be able to
Mhm.
access those levels of education. So that's the only people who could apply for the job. On the same front, same time, we're removing all women from these positions and telling them quite boldly they should go back home and be mothers and be in the kitchen, and that should be their only job. They should not be out here in the workforce taking up these spaces. And then we're saying to people who are brown in entirety, we don't want to see you at work at all, because if you're at work, then you're taking jobs from this class that we've now created. So this is a big picture, and we're looking at the microcosm of it, like, oh, like look at now what's happening with just this one number. But no,
Mhm.
look at the larger plan. That plan will not work. Why will that plan not work at the end of the day? Well, because we've already crossed the threshold of mixed people in America. That is to
Mhm.
say that we've done too much so far to breed across the lines, that you have all sorts of people out here that you cannot identify simply by the color of their skin.
Mhm.
Therefore, objectively, if we just go with what does science and human nature say, you can't beat the puzzle at this point. Why are they screaming about this now? Because they realize that eugenics says that it's over, right?
Mhm.
That what we're looking at now is that you have a population of people who would continue to be non-white as the majority in the United
Mhm.
States of America. We've crossed that threshold, and it's almost impossible to go back without annihilating populations. This is about annihilating populations of people so we can maintain a majority, but that
Mhm.
train has already left the station. So I
Yeah,
don't
and
think this will work at the end of the
well,
day.
we'll
Yeah,
see. And the Department of Education have taken away the professional title from many jobs that Black and Brown people currently, are in, like nurses. Can you imagine? Not
that's right.
considered a
That's
professional
right.
job. But
Well,
listen to
yeah, because
this.
that means that we don't have to pay you.
Ex- ex- they're doing. They know what they're doing, right? So, uh,
The federal government will allow you to access money to go to school if your job is considered professional.
damn, damn, damn. Jimmy
That
Cliff
is
said,
why.
"Stop for a second. Jimmy Cliff
Mm,
just died. Reggae singer Jimmy Cliff just died."
mm,
Ah, Jesus Christ. Let me go. Let me go back. Let me go back to. Let me go. I'll address that in a minute. Fortune wrote this article by Jason Ma. Ooh, rest in peace, my brother. Six-figure
mm.
earners are living the illusion of affluence while working side hustles, skipping meals, and pretending Venmo's not working. So this is what he wrote. Even Americans earning six figures are feeling squeezed at the rising cost of living forces those in top income brackets to cut back on expenses and look for ways to stretch their dollars, according to a survey from the Harris Poll. The findings reveal a surprising sense of economic anxiety, with 64% of six figure earners saying their income isn't a milestone for success, but merely the bare minimum to stay afloat. Our data shows that even high earners are financially anxious. They're living the illusion of affluence while privately juggling credit cards, debt, and survival strategies, Libby Rodney, the Harris Poll's chief strategy officer and futurist, said in a statement. In fact, those making $200,000 or more have resorted to financial tactics that are often associated with less wealthy consumers. For example, 64% said they used reward points for essentials. 50% have used buy now, pay later. You're making over $200,000 a year. You're using buy now, pay later for essentials, and uh, uh, plans for purchases under $100, and 46% rely on credit cards to make ends meet. The Harris poll also revealed that those top earners are avoiding expenses. 49% skipped a social event so they wouldn't have to split a check. 48% have pretended an app like Venmo or Zelle wasn't working to dodge a payment. And 45% held off on medical care due to the cost. And like most Americans, six-figure earners also report that groceries and other household essentials, as well as housing and medical costs, are the top expenses draining their income. I've been saying this for a minute. We have been looking at, my husband and I have been talking about this, and I said, something is going on here. You used to be able to just sail through a month. You can't sail through a month anymore. Everything is so much more expensive. So instead of going to, because people, come to this event, each event costs $300, $400, $200, and there are tons of them going on around in Philadelphia right now. I'm not, I choose very carefully which one I go to, because each time I
Mhm.
say I'm going to an event and I buy a ticket, I've got to get my hair done. I've got to get my face done. You know, I have enough clothes in my closet so I don't have to buy clothes.
Just
But
say you
all of
stay
that
pretty
costs,
ready. You on a
huh?
Wednesdays ready for the ball. So you on a Wednesdays ready for a ball. So I don't know. You know,
Right?
don't let it fool you out there.
Because the way but because the way I curated my outfits was that they would be timeless, not something that was a fad. So I don't
We're not
buy
talking about your
fads,
outfit.
right?
We talking about your hair and face. You going to a ball today because your hair is dead and your face is done. So I don't know.
I'm not,
Where
but
you going?
it's a part of the keeping myself, and so all of that. People are choosing not to get their hair done because, but I am the face on camera every day, so I have my hair has to be done. I actually don't have any makeup on, just lipstick, so I just want you to know this is my skin,
Go on, be
darling.
careful now.
Let's just
Go on, be
call
careful
the
now.
people and tell people what it is, right? And so you're starting to see there's starting to be an anxiousness around. Okay, I'm bringing in $200,000 a year. I'm bringing in $280,000 a year. I'm bringing in 300,000, but it doesn't feel like the ends are meeting, right?
And what
My
happens now to people who are bringing in $35,000 a
uh,
year and
that's
forty
where I was
thousand
going with
dollars?
all of this, right? So while we are quietly acting like, well, okay, all is well, and we're still pretending and we're still showing up to all these things. What about the people that are not even making 1/10 of what I'm talking about? How are
They are
they
left behind.
surviving?
They're not.
How?
They're not. They're not. And right now, we have eviction and diversion programs in Philadelphia addressing issues that should never have been issues. We have people. We've got a populace who is living literally. If they don't get the next paycheck, it's over for them. We have a crisis where people cannot afford mortgages. We have a crisis. So what we're creating, again, I started the statement with the statement that was there, and I'm going to say it again. If you suffer your people to be ill-educated and you corrupt their manners from infancy, and then you
And
charge
then
them
you
for the
call them
crimes
for
which their
criminals.
first
Yep.
education disposed of them. You have created a thief only to punish it. We are creating thieves. We are
Mhm.
creating a system of people whose last resort is their first. And that is
Which is basic
problematic as a
needs.
society.
Which are
Basic needs.
basic
And there we
needs.
get, now we're back to why we have to triage people today.
Oh my God, David. Oh my
It's
God.
not a down the road issue, it's a current triage. We have to treat it like the Red Cross. And we just simply refuse to acknowledge that. I don't
Yeah.
understand because this is the truth of it. We get back to the truth every time. This is the cut which must be dealt with now. If you are unhoused or in fear of being unhoused, you've got 1 or 2 months left before you're gone on the street, you need to be triaged,
You
which
know,
means we need to take the infrastructure to build that today.
but Tiffany says we need to pay off excessive debt. Sounds good, Tiffany, but one
Can't do
small
that.
thing you can't. It's hard. It is incredibly
And when
difficult,
when Tiffany
incredibly challenging.
is Tiffany is are we speaking about corporate debt or are we talking about personal debt? When she's saying paying off debt.
Well, we'll find out from her in a second. He wants to know.
Okay.
Thank you, too blessed to be stressed. He says I have beautiful skin. It's a DNA thing. It is. So when you think that part through, right? And people were making
Mm.
$200,000 are struggling to pay. You just heard me say our electric, water, and gas bill total used to be $500. Now our electric and water bill alone are $500. It is now winter, which means the gas bill is going to go up. Who, right? So we're over here going,
Meanwhile, you've
yeah,
lost the job. Right. Yeah.
right, and then you lose the job that you could make that you were making to pay these things, and when you get
And
another
we've
job,
cut
it's
back the
one
government
half of what
subsidy.
it's
Right.
one
And
half
we've
of what
also
you would have
deleted
made.
the we've deleted the government subsidy that would have been able to help you through the month on that particular issue. We also have done zero to make sure that you, as a citizen who've been paying tax your entire life into this thing that's supposed to keep you sane and well, have any access to any of those things because we're not actually helping you. We have a long list. I love it because we announce programs, and those programs require people to get on a list. I had one really big knockdown, drag out argument in one of the halls of City Hall where, when I was finished, the woman gave me a big hug. She said, "Oh my God, you're the first person to understand this." I said, "Yes, this program requires you to have a valid ID and an address. Find me a homeless
But
person
you're
with an address."
unhoused. This is that's so they make it difficult, right? And so there's a lot of talk about repairing people's homes. Yes, Philadelphia is an old city, and yes,
In
there needs to
10
be.
years. The HUD program requires you to get on a list, and some of these people don't come up on the list for another 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years. So for now, until you come up on the list, your number says, so yes, you're on the list. Oh, you're on the
Yeah.
list. That's great. Meanwhile, your house is falling down around you for the next 3 years. Get through three
Yeah.
winters and three rainstorms and see how you get there.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
obscene. It's
Yeah.
obscene. It's a broken
And
system. It's not working.
there's an assumption that we can just pull up and do what we're supposed to do. Tiffany says it's personal debt start one at a time. Those small credit cards with high interest. Tiffany, I've seen people did doctoral degrees, had two, three jobs, lost all their jobs, had the credit card, was paying off stuff, and all of a sudden everything came to a complete stop. So I want us to think both and. Anything can happen that can create a space for you to not be able to do all these things. Laura says, first step is to build your personal funds. Do not give all your extra money to pay cards down. In these times, put yourself first. So one person at least said to me, I just let the credit card, I can pay off the one that I can pay off, and the rest of them are just going to go into debt because I have to pay my mortgage. I have to pay to for
Yeah.
my to Laura's point. We have to see both sides of it. Look outside of your vision of what you're able to do and see what's going on
Yeah.
with other
From
people.
a very
Right?
from a very practical standpoint, I would say to her, you need to call the credit card company and settle it for a smaller amount. So the first thing is to
Yes.
say, I don't have the funds to be able to pay anything.
Yep.
And then they're
Yep.
going to say to you, what can you pay? And you'll explain that you don't have funds for this, that, and the other. But then you're going to close the card and you're
Yep.
going to settle it for a much smaller amount. And then you're going to send letters. If you don't have a wet signature on your debt, I don't know why you're paying it. So you need to make sure that they have wet signatures for everything they're claiming is your debt in the first place. Otherwise, it's not your debt. But there's a whole lot. There's a whole nother segment about getting to that. And I think we should bring someone on who's specific to the banking world of debt repayment and what should you be paying back and what should you not, and what forgiveness looks like in this setting other. But I will say to you that your primary interest today is in feeding yourself and keeping a
Mhm.
roof over your head and not paying your
Yes.
credit cards first, right? You
Yeah.
should, that's feed yourself. Feed yourself.
She says we're to change our financial mindset. Tiffany, I think you hear us, but you don't really hear us because here's what I'm saying to you. There are people who have been systemically paying their bills on time, paying off their credit cards. People get into stuff, and then something happens that gets them into a place where they can't, right? So yes, we have to change our financial mindset, but remember, we bought into the notion that we were financially well off. We bought into the notion we were in this bubble, like we're making six figures, we're making 160 something, 200 and some thousand dollars a year, all of that. And we bought into the notion that this was always going to be. Even as people were saying to you for as long as I can remember, the first time it hit my radar was the first time Donald Trump won the presidential election. And I was sitting in class with all these white teachers, and they were like, we want what the black women are getting. So I knew then when I reported it out that something was coming. And so we sat there. And so just because right now we feel comfortable or that everything is going to be okay, you have to plan ahead and say, okay, this could be me. There's 600,000 people now, black women particularly, because they came for us. This woman said to me, all the black women are more degree than we are. The jobs that we would get because our uncles and cousins and fathers will just hand to us, we can no longer get them. We are not as smart. We're not as forceful. I sat in rooms and heard this being said to me. I came back and reported to all of y'all, and you all kept going. I also told you to please stop posting on social media every damn where you've been. You, David, you got to do it. You fine. But one of the things that we're angry about, David, we're going to Martha's of the Vineyard. We're going to Greece. The anger was building and boiling. So while you thought you were showing how financially well off you were, there were plans in place to put you back in your
And you were.
places.
And you were showing off how financially well you were, and that was a problem. I will say this: one of the things from a financial wisdom that my father taught me was he wouldn't allow me credit cards. He would not allow me to use credit, and I thought he was ridiculous. I hated it. I hated it. I wanted to have the little credit card. Even as an adult, my father had complete control of everything until he died. But as an adult, no, you may not have. No, we're not having credit cards. It's the end. Now, it's interesting because I've always paid for my things. I'm not worried about who's coming to take them away or this and that because they belong to me, right? And this
Mhm,
system of credit is something that we've gotten into, which is a really bad problem. But I'd
mhm,
say it's the biggest sickness that we have as a society is that we live our
mhm.
lives based upon money that doesn't belong to us, and then we have to pay it back with interest. So I'd
Right.
say that the first thing you want to do is get having credit, carrying a metal card is not the end all be all. There's one in the family, I don't have access to it, right? Because I would be in a world of hurt if I began to spend money I did not have.
Right. Here's the other thing. It used to be you could get credit at 2 and 5% interest. Baby, you have good credit and they're sending you a gold credit card thing in the mail talking about the interest rate is 19%. Since when? It's more difficult to, they're lowering our credit scores. It's more difficult to gain higher. Like they're doing all these things that we thought we had attained and that we were going to be okay. Right. So again, be mindful, read, think through everything that you're thinking before you say and do it. So listen, I'm just I learned how to cook a decent meal, y'all. Learn how to, and she says cash is still king. But we were conditioned to believe that you can have all the cash in the world. If you didn't have a credit card and using credit, then your credit score below, which means you can't borrow anything, right? That's
You
the
people,
crazy
I
ish.
can't tell you how many people think that it's what do you call it? They think it's important. They think it's great. They think they're doing something when they take out their credit card and put it on the table to show other people what credit card they're using today. We have always laughed at that. We've always said to ourselves, the people who are putting the debit card on the counter, that's where we want to put our trust because those
Come
people
on.
are using real money.
Yes.
These people using credit cards are using borrowed funds. You have to get to a certain level in life before you can start using borrowed funds to your interest. Please don't walk around here as though you have millions of dollars when you do not. Right.
Yes.
So believe that you're going to play this same game where you're going
Mhm.
to live off of interest. Because well, people over here with millions of dollars, they defer this and they whatever else and they use that. You don't have that problem. You have 35. You're a 35,000-aire. You're not a millionaire. You're a 35,000-aire. And as a
Mhm.
35,000-aire, you have no business using your credit card to pay for your life. You actually need to be figuring out how not to use money to pay for your life in the best way possible. So you need to be cooking things at home and this and the other. When you do something special, make sure it's special. Buy things of value. Don't buy 14 of them. Buy one fabulous thing, right? And if you need to sell something, make sure it was fabulous in the first place so you can go back and sell it later, right? I mean, these
Yes.
are the things. That's a whole nother program. But this lie we've been telling ourselves about credit and
Mhm.
about the showmanship of the credit card is, and I have had access to every credit card in the world, right, and have held them and used them, purchased a bag, all in
Mhm.
the state of story.
Yeah.
That is something I would say to every person in this community: stop it.
Yeah.
Really, my father's lesson to me was the best, which was live off of what you have, not off of what you
What
don't.
you
And
have.
if you must reach for the credit card to do something, it's there.
Mhm.
It's there
Mhm.
as an emergency.
Mhm.
Please don't use it when you go to McDonald's. Don't
Yeah.
use it at the restaurant tonight. Don't if anything which is a luxury, anything which is a luxury, you have to be able to afford with cash.
You know what's so funny?
If it's a necessity, yeah.
Yeah, hold on. So on Friday, I was getting my hair done, and Sarita told me about this place. It's Cameroon with French infusion
Mm.
on South Street called Chateau something. I can't remember now. And I called Denise and I said, "Come on, let's go." And we got there, and I said, "I'm paying cash for this dinner." If I, because I was like, I looked, I said, if I can't afford to pay cash for this dinner, I ain't going, right? It turns out that the dinner was right with tip. The dinner was $70 a person, and we sat and we ate, and then we Ubered home, and then we shared the cost of the Uber with our bank accounts, right? And I said, that felt so nice, right? And if I'm
Yeah.
not going to use to your point, I said the same thing because those credit card bills will fly straight up into the ceiling because you figure that this is the thing, American Express now,
Free money.
right? And it's not free money unless you're. I'm not going to say because it'll tell you some things, but American Express is $900 a year now, right? For their platinum
Oh,
card,
it's when
it's
I see
nine
you,
hundred
you're
dollars.
paying
It's
less than that.
nine hundred
It's
dollars a
less than I
year.
know. And 900 sounds
Sir,
good for what they offer me for the car that I used to carry. So I because I'm not I'm no, don't do it.
and so I heard people. I heard. So
Don't
I
do it.
learned this by hearing people talk about it. They were like, "Well, I think I'm just going to give up this card and give up that card because now they all anything with a gold, a black card, you have to spend at least $100,000 to $200,000 a year consistently."
More. More.
And these folks are
More.
running around out
Centurion.
here
Let me tell you
making two
something.
and 300, and even if you're making $500,000 a year, you are
The amount that
literally
you
a slave to giving up to spending money on things you don't really want or need so you can say you have a black card. Our thinking
the
has to
amount that you
change.
have to pay, the amount that you have to pay in creating debt to maintain the Centurion card, I found it to be ridiculous. I was like, this is ridiculous. This is why do we pay so much just to maintain this particular card? And so I say to you, you don't need all that. You really, I mean, honestly, the best advice I can give you in this short window is if it's a luxury that you want and you think you should have it, then you should have the cash for it. And if you do not have the cash for the luxury that you want, you better go figure out something that's going to go make the money to go get the luxury that you want. But if you're pulling out your credit card for that moment, and I want you to hear me as gift giving season is upon us, if you're pulling out your credit card for a luxury, put it back away and say, this is not for me.
Yep.
Wait until you have the funds. I'm not saying you can't have luxuries. I'm just saying be able to pay for them. Now, if you have a necessity that requires a credit card for the moment, I get it.
Mhm.
It's a whole different
Mhm.
issue. But you're talking about buying a shoe or a fur or whatever else, and you're going to use a car. No, 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 no.
Right.
No,
And the other
because
thing
what you
is
need to know is
yeah, the other thing that they're talking about, which is absolutely true, only put you only put a certain amount of money in your credit card if you must use it, right? If you're using half of what your credit is every month,
under
that's like number one in
30%.
sign that you really can't afford the car. So let's start there. And you have to pay it off every single month. Every month.
Under 30% of the total usage of the card at
Yeah.
maximum.
Yep.
Under 30% of the total use of the card.
Yep.
So it's a thing. I'm not the person to lecture you on how you use your credit. I live in a different world. I understand that, but I would say that quite frankly, it's a trap, and it was meant to create a bigger trap and get spending. You remember in the '80s when that was all coming out, we thought the money came from the trees and we spent it like water. That's not reality, and I
And
think we've come to a new place. I
some
will
credit
say
scores have not recovered since the 80s as a direct result of
and
that.
will not, and will not. And by the way, there's going to be a huge credit reset in America because when everybody scores in toilet, nobody can buy anything. We'll do something about that system. So again, why I say be careful with what you pay back so quickly. Make sure you fed yourself first because you might discover that that was forgiven next year. Anyway,
Woo!
I will say to you that today's crisis in our local place is making sure that we press on the legislation to procure places where we set up emergency housing, temporary housing, and then permanent housing in that order, so that our goal is that by the end of 2026 that we have zero people who are unhoused. If that means that we have to create law that says it's illegal to exist outside of domicile past a particular hour, which means that we are providing you with places to stay
Mhm.
that are single units and secure, because saying you got to go to a shelter is not the answer. That's a horrible place to send people in a big room
Mhm.
full of people who are going through all sorts of things. And that's not the answer. No,
Mhm.
individual rooms. If we can do it with a U-Haul facility, we can do it with people. And I think we need to take that challenge and run with it. That's where I think we
Yeah.
will solve so many issues that are intrinsically followed after
But
that.
you
The
know, a
money's
lot of
there.
people
We
right
just have to
now
find it.
are working and living in U-Haul facilities. The problem is when U-Haul
And
finds out, when the storage places find out, they try to put them out, right? But if
well,
they
doesn't
were
it tell us what
smart,
we
they
need to
would
do
use some of
then?
those. But if they were smart, they'd use some of those containers to house people, charge them $100 a month, like they would if you're storing furniture.
U-Haul should be making it. The reason why U-Haul doesn't do this, because I asked, is because it is illegal for them to operate a hotel. So the issue with the U-Haul facility is not that U-Haul wouldn't see that as a great business model. They would. They would capitalize on it. It's that we stop people from operating those businesses hotels, make it too expensive to do that. So what do the city need to do? The city needs to create a space in which temporary housing, because it's a very different issue for permanent housing code and what you have to do. But
Mhm.
temporary code allows this. We have cities which are
Mhm.
doing this, right? We have the money. It would cost us so much less money. I hope somebody from the executive team is listening
Mhm.
today. We have
Mhm.
so much money to do this. It is so less expensive to do it this way. And the
Mhm.
plans have been submitted many times to the powers that be about how to fix this issue. It's not a hard one. It's a really
So then
simple
I
one.
can,
We
so
have
then
to
I
care
come back
to
to,
do
so
it.
then I come back to where's the will? There has to be a will
We
to
don't
help people.
care. We don't care. Except the truth is now, I think the truth is that the corporate dollar that we've been chasing has told us we'll come back to town when you clean it up.
Yeah.
And we know how to clean it up.
Hmm. My brother, always a pleasure. Mondays are always a
Likewise.
pleasure for me. If I'm exhausted and don't want to come on, I'm like, I'm gonna be here on Monday with David. Now listen, it's the week of
No matter
Thanksgiving.
where I am in the world.
You will find your way.
What are
It's the
you
week.
doing for Thanksgiving?
I am hosting at my son's house, but I'm cooking. Lord help me, Jesus.
Fabulous. Oh, I love
So
it. It's
he's
gonna be
so
good.
excited. He's so excited, right? So we're
Yes,
gonna do
we've
that,
got this schedule.
and
We
there will be no Black Friday spending. Jesus, we have too much in our homes right now. If you're intent to go spend money, take it and give it to somebody who could use to pay a bill or something. Please, please, to the folks who has helped me with the teacher that came in from Jamaica to get school supplies and all the other stuff. She was so happy. She got back to the island yesterday. She's all of it is gone. People are in such need, right? And so we're gonna. I'm collecting more. Folks are bringing more stuff to my house. So when she comes back in 3 weeks, I'll be able to do that, and then we have to pay for her for the heaviness of our luggage, right? Yeah. I know the storage facility you're talking about, Marguerite. She says I watch a storage facility every day and see people coming in and out of there at 5 a.m. They're living in there, right? Monica Adams says yes, if they can do it with U-Haul, they can do it to house the homeless. It's a lot. There just
Hello.
has to be a will. Has to be a
Yeah.
will.
Thanksgiving is such an interesting time in family. It's a time where we come together and sort of hug on the loved ones that we have. And for many people, I think it's the first time they see their family in a long time. So
Mhm.
I'm always thankful for this week and really excited about it. We have a bit of a very traditional anachronistic way of celebrating Thanksgiving, which is not so traditional anymore. But we have a blessing of the hounds and fox hunt in the morning, and then we have a meal in the evening, and then on Friday night with the presentation to the Debs in
Mhm.
Philadelphia. So it's a big weekend of a lot of
Mhm.
things going on. But one of the things I love the most about the Thanksgiving meal itself, it's the one that we all cook together.
Yes.
And so it's kind of this time when all the cousins get in the room and they're going through the
Mhm.
food and so I think it's going to be really exciting. I'm hosting it this year,
Mhm.
which is another. I don't know why I've said yes to this, but here it is.
Yes. Here we are.
If you want to send
Yes.
prayers and thoughts and cards,
Yes, we will.
that's fine. And
Thoughts and
speaking of which, I need to get
condolences.
to the flower market to get everything for this. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
My daughter-in-law is excited
my
because she's
blessings.
go ahead, darling.
I know my blessings to all of you out here who are cooking meals and loving on each other. That we remember that it's not about the extra stuff. Don't stretch
Yeah.
yourself over the bottle of champagne,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
stretch yourself over the hug.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my daughter-in-law, both her parents are deceased, and so, she's become the daughter, another daughter, her and Janelle, and she's excited. She's putting up tinsel, and Christmas is a good time for her, and she's decorating the house, and she's doing that part of it. And I said to her, "Listen, the chafing dishes are there because I'm not mobile. Is not about the aluminum pan thing, foil pan thing. I've got all the stuff in
We
my
don't
house.
have
They've
those.
been washed and put
I
away."
don't have foil. I don't have foil.
My
I don't
husband
have.
would just
Let me
do
tell
the
you.
same
Can I
thing. It's
tell you?
terrible.
I don't have foil. I don't have. You know what? And when someone says to me, "Do you have a piece of foil?" I say, "For what? What could you possibly need with foil?" Well, I was going to wrap up. We were going to wrap up what? Well, I was going to take a plate to who? Were they here? Did you bring that with you? You taking something out that you didn't bring with? Oh no, we don't have
Wait. You
foil.
mean that happens in
Well,
your
please
family
eat
too?
everything
Oh
that you
my
have.
God. So what we did was we bought
I
to-go
see
containers.
people ask for full. I don't own any. We don't
Yes,
have paper
yeah.
plates, plastic plates, this and the other. And it's, by the way, it's very economical. I say this, but it's true because we watch it. We don't have foil. Where do you need with foil? Where are you going?
Wait.
You have a friend.
We have to go containers. We have to go containers, and my son said, "To go containers. This food is going to feed me and my family for the next week. To go, I wish somebody would." So guess what he said? He's going to
And
compile all the food from all the dishes that he wants to keep
yes,
in his refrigerator so that they can eat
yes.
for the next week. He said, "I'm not thinking about these people. To go containers." We laugh so hard.
I will tell you this. I believe it's perfectly fine to go get the things to set up for your guests so they can go home.
Mhm.
I find it grotesque. It's like when people pull flowers out of range at the end of an event. Oh my God. Right after the attack. It is, it's a cultural thing. I understand it's not, but please don't ask me for a piece of foil. We don't have
Mhm.
foil.
Mhm.
And don't take my dish when you come.
I know.
No.
Yeah.
So I hope to feed you a wonderful meal that you love, and I hope that you enjoy.
Mhm.
And if you would like something to go home, please let me know in advance so that I can prepare for you something to go with. Maybe I'll make a little box that's beautiful and say go on with God with this thing. But I'm very happy. I don't overcook. Maybe that's the first thing. I don't overcook.
Yes.
Okay, so I cook for the people that are coming,
Yes.
and I've never had an issue of this and the other. We love for you to come, but no, please don't ask me for foil. We don't have foil.
Child. The first time I
Um,
hosted Thanksgiving
we
in
don't
this
have foil.
house, my husband was like, "Well," I said, "We're not using paper plates. We're using regular, I had all these beautiful fork and knife settings because it's the way I grew up, right? We didn't paper but first of all, paper
Mhm.
plates was a waste for us. So we used the knives and forks and he looked at me like I
Biggest
was
waste
crazy.
of money I've ever seen. Biggest waste of people talking about saving money. Do you know how much you spend on paper plates and plastic knives?
Over and
I don't
over and
have
over
any. The
again.
only paper product is toilet paper and paper towels. About all you're gonna
Wait.
find is made of paper in this house. There's
So so
nothing else.
so let me give you a clue. There is a Dollar Tree in Flower Town that has the most beautiful plates and wine goblets. If you really want to do it, right, get
Mm.
a case of wine,
Yeah.
$20, a case of, $20,
Yeah.
and do it that way. You really, really can, because you could spend
And
wine
wash the
goblets on
glass.
soap, yeah, and use some and throw it in the dishwasher. What? Just keep throwing it or wash it with your hands. But at Thanksgiving is beautiful, beautiful chafing dishes and the food lays in, and my son's like, wait, what? I said, I'm going to bring it to your house. You will not destroy my Thanksgiving joy, not today. There will be no aluminum
Mm-mm.
plants all over the
No.
place.
No.
And so
No, we sit down.
yes, and we sit down, right. And so we have tables
Sit
long enough for
down.
everybody to sit. So Marguerite says, David, you mentioned on your page that your family gives to the homeless during the holiday. How can we help with that?
Yes. Um, Normally, in most years, I'd say the way that you help is by donating. We are not accepting them this year. We recognize that we live in a time right now where the ask on Americans to be able to sustain themselves is too great. And so we are not doing an annual appeal this year for Merry Christmas from Anonymous. We are funding it entirely from ourselves. And really, it started off that way. It started off with me saying to my father, "Please don't give me Christmas gifts." I don't think I said it just like that. I think I said in lieu of all of these things. I'll take a few, but I said I really wanted to give money to the people that he took me to go see who were living underground and in the streets. So
Mhm.
write letters if you'd like.
Oh,
Come out and pass out cards, right? We write letters to the people who are living in the road to say that
is
we're
there a
thinking of you and we know that
particular
you
day that you're
exist.
going out, David? Did you go out to do this? Well, some
We
of us
do it
would like to
Christmas
join you.
Eve, so it's really hard for
Christmas
people.
Eve.
Yeah, Christmas Eve. And we do it between the two masses at St. Mark's Church. So St. Mark's has two masses on Christmas Eve, one which is in the morning time, which is in normal matins. And then we have all the way that day of just handing out things and we make it a big celebration. We go out and hand
Mhm.
out these cards. This year, what I'm saying to you is if you would like to do this, write cards,
Mhm.
stuff the cards. We put in money into the cards. We put gift cards to places like Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts or to Target or to all sorts of things. And we just create these cards and we sign them. We sign them anonymous,
Anonymous, yes.
and we write these letters, and then we go out and we hand these things out. So that's kind of the dream of where this goes. We do not need the reason why we began to open it up to donations was because so many people said, I have no desire to go out there and hand out cards. I want to do something that helps and I want to add to that pile. And so nearly 20 years, I would say, I don't know how long it's been a long time that we've been doing this. And so we just, this is not the, this is, I cannot reconcile getting on a plane and turning left and sitting down and then turning around to the people that I love and saying, I'm sorry, we have to find a way to fund this. No, we're just going to fund it. We're going to fund it. And we're very
Okay.
happy to fund it and do this work. And so you can participate by joining in and participating, by
Yes.
doing the work and by handing out the cards. But we
Yeah.
will accept no financial donations this year.
All right, okay. Because I think I am going to challenge those of you who listen every day for us to do something similar, right? And the cards don't have to have anything more than $5 or $10, whatever you can give. So don't feel like you can't. This has to have a
And
hundred
whatever you
dollars
can
in
give.
there. Whatever you can give, because it's still better than
And we go
nothing
to
at
the
all.
dollar store and we get the cards. Yeah, we
Hmm.
go to the dollar store, we get the cards. I'm going to
Hmm.
set up a day, and I'll announce this to the body.
Next
It's a very
Monday.
Masonic term, but I will bring this to you next Monday of what day we'll do a card writing day.
Oh, that would be nice.
And that will be the day where we actually sit down and
Yeah.
write the notes, and we'll have
Hmm.
a glass of champagne and just write the notes and just go
Yeah.
through and just write. And because I think that that's where we need to be. We need to get in the practice of doing the work. And I think so
Hmm.
often we're in the practice of tasking someone else or donating to
Hmm.
this other thing. And I
Hmm.
think we've got to get to a place where it is our humanity that is in this thing.
Hmm.
Merry Christmas from Us was never supposed to be about me. It was always supposed to be
Hmm.
about people knowing that they were loved on the streets,
Yes.
whether they had attachments to anyone or not.
Oh,
We always people ask me, why do I do it that day, Christmas Eve? Is because I give it to people who are sleeping in the streets. So it usually, I usually will go and pinpoint people, not just who are outside asking for X, Y, and Z, but often
mhm,
people who are asleep in the subway system. And
mhm.
people who are homeless often sleep during the day because it's
Yeah.
safer. So they sleep early morning and
Oh,
they get up again at night to be safe, right? Because it's
mhm.
really not safe to be asleep when people
Right.
are not outside. So that is the dream, that's the hope, that's the goal. And so yes, I'll announce when we do a letter writing, and then
Okay.
again we'll be passing out on Christmas Eve.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. That's awesome. Marguerite says, thank you for the information. Laura says, I am down
Yes.
with that. And, you know, when you take yourself outside of yourself to help somebody who can do nothing for you without cameras, people, please don't take away their dignity by taking out cameras to show them, but it'll make you feel so much better. I know a Saturday I was running up and
And bring
down.
tissues.
Child. I know Saturday I was running up
It's
and
a
down collecting
tearjerker.
donations, and my heart was so full. I was exhausted. But just to know that people were going to appreciate what was given to them. And then you remember that it's not about you. This life is not about us, right? But how we impact those that are around us in it. And in the time when
And
life is
people
so
are
hard for so many, it's crazy.
people out here doing the work, right? I mean, look at Sadia Schuler, who's out
Hey,
here giving out
pull
food
some of her
and
friends
turkeys and this,
together
that,
and
and the
they
other.
bought
But I
all
mean,
this
and
food, right?
the
Yeah.
lines around the blocks, and I mean, that is the work. That's the real work, right? That is it, right? So just do it. Like there's no reason, and you don't have to be as big as she is in her ability to be able to.
Mhm.
You can be smaller and do something. It's just that we all have to get out there and do something. So I think the work's being done. And I think that it doesn't need applause. It just needs to be done. And so I think that that's one of the reasons why we are certainly the family is taking care of the bill, and it's going to get done that way. Yeah,
Thank you, my brother. Love you so much. We'll talk soon, okay?
likewise.
And
Happy Thanksgiving.
happy Thanksgiving to you too. Um, because it is Thanksgiving and because I am cooking this week and because I need a break unapologetically, I'll be on tomorrow and then I'm off for the rest of the week. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I will be spending it with my entire family, with my children, my grandchildren, my siblings, all of the above, my husband, all of it. And so tomorrow is my last day of broadcasting for the week. And then whatever is on my calendar for Wednesday and Friday, I'll have my producer push it to the following week because it is time for us to find and live in the gratitude of who we are and to love and appreciate one another. And so tomorrow, Tuesday, November 25th, which is also Grandparents' Day at my oldest children's grandchild's school, and the babies have parent conference. So I'll be running between states for grandchildren all day tomorrow, and I'm loving it, right? Because I know I will not be on Wednesday. Wednesday, the meats will come out tomorrow for the meats, Jamaican. So the meats have been seasoned a month ago, right? And so we're just going to pull it out and start defrosting and the kitchen is going to be smelling wonderful. And for the American meals that I don't cook, like yams and macaroni and cheese, Jamaicans don't make great macaroni and cheese. Bite me, I said it and I meant it, right? And so folks will be making that kind of stuff for me. But we'll have escovitch and roasted beef and roasted pork and oxtails and two different kinds of fishes, not fishes, two different kinds of fish, and rice and peas and white rice and mac and cheese and potato salad. And so my son is like, yeah, when he said I was cooking, all of a sudden all these people were coming, right? So he's like, we're not doing that. I'm putting some of my food when my mama's cooking. I'm going to be here for it. So I'll see you tomorrow morning. We will have our guest on, and then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I'm off. Don't go watch the reruns if you want something to do. But I'm also going to ask you to go look up some of these things. Look up the Kennedy dynasty. Look up why we are the way we are right now. Look up why we're moving from using cash money to a Bitcoin or a different kind of currency that you can't put your hands on. Look up why. Go on YouTube. Just turn it on and just put in what you want to see and to watch. And then spend the weekend, just breathing and enjoying yourselves. Please do, right? And if you can help anyone in this holiday season that may not have anywhere to be for Thanksgiving that you can invite into your domicile, do that too. If I was doing it at my house, I'd probably have a whole lot more people in here. But right now, my son and daughter-in-law are up to 30. And I'm like, who feeding all them people? But I understand and I love to cook. Also, I'm thinking about making a batch or two of black cakes. If I decide to do it, I'll let you know. But once they're done, they are done. I'm just letting you know. And they're not going to be cheap. A large one is probably going to be $100 and a small one will be 60 because of everything, the cost of everything has gone up. And so that's where I am with it. All right. I love you all. I'll see you tomorrow. This episode of Mornings with Marvel is officially over. I am Andrea Lawful Sanders. I'll see you when I see you. Oh my God. I just had a thought. I could make black cakes and then donate the proceeds to the people who are unhoused. Ooh, what a thought. Bye, everybody.